Glenn.
Mirovets.
And welcome back to our little Bulgarian adventure.
Well, we've had a busy week.
We have. We've been out lots, we've worked lots.
Played a bit.
Played a bit, yeah. We started last Saturday by going to Schumann Market.
We did. We haven't taken any footage of it. We just wanted to have a wander around and see what it was like.
And it's enormous.
It's huge.
It's really big. But I bought a couple of pictures and a glass tray, which I'm very happy with. But it's definitely worth a visit.
Definitely. Thank you, Andy, for taking us round. It was appreciated.
Yes. So we did get a parking ticket.
Well, we think we got
we
one.
got one. We're not
We'll
sure.
update you on that. It's all a bit vague.
We got a slip of paper, but it has no document numbers on it. It has nothing. So we're not sure where we pay it or who we pay it to or how
we can't find
out.
where we would look it up online. So nothing's come through the post. So who knows?
Yeah, if anybody knows. So it had places to fill all these document
They just weren't
numbers
filled
out,
in.
but nothing was filled in. So we're not sure about it.
We'll see.
But we'll see.
So that was Saturday.
Saturday and Sunday.
We went out again.
2 days in a row.
I know.
We went to visit Christoph and Connie.
Yes.
Who have bought a property not very far from us.
Yes, it's a holiday let property, which we will put details of in the description.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Really
absolutely,
lovely houses.
Yeah. And lovely people. It was really nice meeting you and your family.
Yes, we found we shared many things in common.
And we spent a very enjoyable afternoon sitting, chatting and looking around their property. Lovely.
Yes. And came away with the best box of chocolates I've ever
eaten. Thank you so much.
They were absolutely delicious.
My waistline thanks you.
Mine doesn't, but they were worth it.
So that was the weekend, and like we said, quite busy.
Yes, back to work on Monday.
Yes, and something I promised that I would be starting last week was the wood processing. Well, true to my word, this is what we did. So we've got through winter, we're now rapidly approaching summer, and this is the wood that we've got left from last year's wood processing. There's a few little sticks for starting fires, there's the big bits that I'm not sure how to cut yet, and we've got half a bay of logs which we didn't burn this year. That's leaving us with these 1, 2, 3 bays ready for this year's wood. And this is this year's wood. It starts here and comes all the way up to here. You can see how tall it is. It goes back about 2 metres. Now we've got large bits of wood, smaller bits for logs, and then we've got all the little branches that are going to be mulched and used in the garden. Max is going to do the mulching, I'm going to be doing the cutting, and then Max will be doing the splitting. I did say we'd be doing the wood processing before the end of May. Well, here goes. But before we start that, we've got a bit of tidying up to do. So this is how far we got so far with a couple of days work. That's stuff that's been cut to length but not yet split. There's a couple of rows of that. Over in the far corner we've got kindling and long sticks. The first bay is last year's wood and odds and ends. That's 2 rows deep of that, and then the stuff at the front. And this bay here is 2 rows deep, and that sort of height, which is about 1.5 meters. So that's probably a quarter of the wood we need. And luckily we're about a quarter of the way through the pile behind me. So we'll carry on with this over the next few days. Hopefully make a bigger dent in it, and then we can do it at our leisure.
I spent the usual amount of time this week swimming.
Oh yes.
And doing tidying up little bits in the garden. There's still loads to do, it just grows so quickly.
It's so rapid. And we have been promising for a couple of weeks now to show you exactly what has been going on in the garden, so here you go. Well, we promised you a look around the garden when the sun came out. Well, the sun's come out. Something seems to have got Daisy's attention. She's barking away at it, but we'll carry on. Hopefully she'll let us do a bit of talking without drowning me out too much. But that's the general state of the garden so far. Things are growing, it's official. So starting off with the flowers, we've got this little display of irises here. I know that because Lynn just told me. And our poppies are out. They're not in full force yet, and it does seem when we get a few and then we get a heavy wind we lose the petals, but they're very nice to look at, and the bees like them. Where the poppies are is interspersed with various wild flowers. We just like to leave this corner to go a bit wild, although there are things planted in there which will give us some food. And here we have some aqua once again prompted by Lynn there. They're coming to the end of their blooming time, but they're still here adding a splash of colour. And over here we have the purple flowers from sage. It's attracting the bees and the butterflies and the wildlife. And again, a splash of colour. You may notice there's a bit of a theme in the colours in the garden. This is totally accidental, I'm told, and not at all because it's purple. And this is our potato raised bed. We've got these 3 square raised beds down here. This one is obviously potatoes. They're growing really well. Hopefully we'll get a good crop out of there. And in here we have radishes, beetroots, onions, carrots. Again, I'm being prompted, but most of these I recognise. We've also continued to cultivate this vine that is just growing randomly in the middle of the little area here. We're putting it over an arch. Last year there were actually grapes on it, so we'll see what happens this year. And down in this corner we've got some onions, we've got some strawberries, and we've got some tomato plants. So hopefully this year we'll have a nice variety of veg coming through. And down at this end we have some more potatoes, but if you look closely in the undergrowth, let's see if I can zoom in a bit on him. Yes, we've got some rhubarb. Now this is the tree that we got the most apples off last year. It's only a small tree, but it's a young tree, so it should be nice and healthy. And you can see we get some nice red apples off of here. And down here, this is our strawberry bed. And you can see we're still getting quite a few strawberries off of there. Enough to have a couple every day, so it just keeps us ticking over. And here on our peach tree, you can see we've got quite a few peaches there, up in the tree itself. Oh, the wind's picked up, so they're jumping around a bit, but hopefully we'll get some peaches off there this year. And this is the area of our young fruit trees that we've planted. We've got apples, we've got cherries, the peach one's over the back there that I just showed you. There are some cherries on the cherry tree, there is an apple on one of the apple trees, so they're beginning to do what they're supposed to do. Here's a peach tree that we planted, and as you can see, it's got some peaches. This here is our archway that's naturally created by the plum tree, and if I can move in, you should be able to see that there's quite a bit of fruit on here as well. So hopefully we're going to have a bumper crop of plums too. And here we have our mulberry tree. You can see there's quite a good display. We should get a good crop of mulberries this year. This is one of the areas of wildflowers in the woodland that Lynn's been strimming around. Now, you may remember me mentioning that I'm a bit indiscriminate with my strimming. This is what happens when you're not. And here's another little area of wildflowers. We've got them all over the place, just popping up, feeding the insects, feeding the butterflies. Here we have the elderflowers out in force. We'll bring you more about them later. And here we have the apple tree that's in the dog compound. Now, I don't know how well you can pick this up, but it is absolutely loaded with apples. I'll try and zoom in on a bit if the dogs will let me. Now, this is just one of the branches. You can see there's an awful lot of apples on it. And as you go up into the tree, that's about all you can see. Now, I tend to find this is quite interesting and exciting to get a bumper load of apples, but it does seem that what's a lot more interesting is just to be here in a dog compound. Isn't that right, Hamish? And this is our Enfield. We have a deal with one of the local shepherds that we let the grass grow. He comes and cuts it and uses it for hay. And you can see they started cutting it this morning. They were up here actually with just a normal lawnmower, which must have been quite hard work for it. They've done a little bit. I think usually they come with something a bit bigger, but that's what they've got this year. And this is what it looks like before they cut it. We don't know what all of these plants are, but I can tell you with some confidence the red ones are poppies. And I'm not sure what any of this is, but it's quite nice to look at. And this is looking back towards the woodland. Again, you can see where the wildflowers are growing, and everything is just growing very, very rapidly. And this here is our quince tree. Every year we get a lot of quinces from it, which you can make jam or jelly with. We have an unfortunate habit of picking them and then not knowing what to do with them. So if you have any suggestions or recipes, put them in the comments for us. This year, hopefully, we'll have some delicious quince jam. And in the foot of the quince tree, even more purple wildflowers. This tree here was a bit of a casualty from last year's storm. You can see this bit here is completely snapped off and fallen. But even amongst all that carnage, we still get stuff growing. The dog roses through here are coming along nicely. And here we are on one of the walnut trees, evidence that this year we'll have at least one walnut. Although looking at the trees, we should have considerably more. So that's a quick tour of the garden, the woodlands and the field at the end. And I'll leave you with a view from inside the woodland here. And this is the view that we see every morning. Hard life, isn't it, eh? So, as you can see, everything is growing really fast.
Yes, after a couple of days of hard work, we decided we had to go out again.
Because, well, why not? And this week has been, and still is, Targovishte Fair.
Yes, it runs all week in Targovishte. I think it's the 245th anniversary.
Something like that, yes.
It's quite a long time.
Oh, yes.
It has a fun fair, it has plant stalls, it has music in the evenings.
Indeed, we haven't been to the evenings yet, but maybe next year.
Yeah.
If you want to go along, there is stuff happening today and tomorrow, I believe, so you've still got time.
I think it runs till Sunday.
But here's just a quick taster of what it's like.
Грибничка с герданчина 3 лева. Да, это не.
So this is one of the alleyways, or walkways I guess, where the shops and the stores are. And you can see there's quite a variety of things that you can buy. Along here we have various sweets and confectionery, kebab stall, ice creams, popcorn, rice, not rice, what's it called? Corn, that's what it's called. If you're in the market for a slush, there's quite a variety of flavours you can choose from. So here are some rotisserie chickens, some kebabs being cooked over the back. We've entered one of the food zones, and I have to say it really does smell good. And this is one of the sponsors of the Targovishte fair, busier. Lots of chairs around, and you just never know who's going to take advantage. Oh, hang on a minute. There's a bloke here who looks like he's trouble. They're never going to move him now, are they? Let's face it. We're also in an area here now where there are various machines you can play. Test your skill, win a teddy bear. I don't actually need a teddy bear, so I won't be doing that.
Добре, вие имате плюшена жаба от тези черно и жълто и всичко на първия ред от тази страна, ето от тук. Натам, каквото ви хареса на вас.
So that's Targovishte Fair. It's very similar to previous years, as you would expect. But if you are going, try and get there in the afternoon rather than the morning. More stalls are open and more stuff happens.
There are a couple of good plant stalls.
I didn't check those out, as you would expect.
Yeah, but somehow I got moved away from them before I could buy anything. I'm not sure how that happened.
I'm getting good at this game. Yeah, so after that we came back and decided it was time to actually use some of the stuff from the garden. So this week I've been making elderflower champagne. So we're now at the time of year where the blossoms come, summer's gone, but the elderflowers are in full force. Now it's the start of the elderflower season, so we're going to use them. Not all of them, but I have a plan now to make some elderflower champagne and some elderflower and strawberry champagne. So let's get these picked, take it from there. You've got to be fairly selective when you're picking the elderflowers. Now these ones here aren't ready, they're not opened yet. There'll be another week or so before they're usable. But here, these are ready. Now they've been open for a few days. This morning we've had a bit of sunshine and no rain, which is ideal conditions for picking them. So we'll get 20 heads or so picked. That'll give us enough for both our batches of champagne, and we'll take it from there. And there's our elderflowers now picked. They need taking off of the stalks. That's a job for me to do in a minute, but for the moment that's 20 heads of elderflower, which will give us enough elderflower for both batches of the champagne we're making. What's that, Engelbert? You come to help? Okay. You can't eat them, mate. Do you want to take your feet out of the elderflowers? Thank you. Oh. So we've now taken the stalks off all the elderflowers. We've got them separated into the two batches. Now we just get everything else ready and make our elderflower champagne. I'm going to start with the elderflower champagne, and for that you need 900 grams of sugar, just ordinary sugar. The elderflowers from the heads of 9 bunches of elderflower. You need 4 lemons, it's the zest and the juice of the lemons you need, and some yeast. Now this is wine yeast that I'm using. You can use champagne yeast, you can use wine yeast. It just needs to be tolerant to a level of alcohol you're brewing to. So in this case it's going to be about 10%. Now the wine yeast will handle that quite easily. So there are our ingredients. This is what we do with them. I've got here my brewing bucket. Now it's been sanitized. I've got a chemical sanitizer that I use in brewing. You can use the sort of sanitizer that you use for babies' bottles, that sort of thing. Or you could use thin bleach, watered down to about, it's a very thin, weak solution. If you use that, soak it for 10 minutes, then rinse it out with clean cold water. Then sniff your bucket. If you can still smell bleach, rinse it again. Once you've finished rinsing it, it shouldn't smell of bleach and you should be ready to use the bucket. Now to the bucket I need to add 2 litres of freshly boiled water. And into that I add the sugar. And then give it a good stir to dissolve the sugar. Now the reason for using boiled water is because the sugar will dissolve in it that much quicker. And once all the sugar's dissolved, we add another 3 litres of cold water, making a total of 5 litres. Now that the water temperature is down to around 20 degrees centigrade, we can put in the various bits that we need to put in there. So for example, that's the lemon juice of the 4 lemons. It's still got a few pips in, but that doesn't matter. We're going to strain it at a later point, but they can go in now. We've also got the zest from the 4 lemons, so they can go in. My hands have been sanitized, so I'm okay doing this. We have the elderflowers. They go in, and finally we've got 5 grams of wine yeast. That goes in as well. With all that in there now, I take my sanitized spoon and just give it all a bit of a mix round. Now this is just the first stage of making this. This now we'll need to get a airlock on it and be allowed to ferment out for 6 to 7 days. I'll show you that when I've got it set up. and then next week I can show you the next stage. I'm doing this in real time, so that if you want to do it while the elderflowers are still on the trees, you can have a go yourself. So that's the lid on the bucket. Now this rubber grommet here is to take an airlock. If you haven't got one of these, which I can understand why you wouldn't, loosely put a lid on the bucket. That way you'll keep anything from falling in it. After a while there'll be a blanket of carbon dioxide over the liquid, which will protect it anyway. And we're going to leave it like this down in the cellar for 6 to 7 days. So next week I'll show you the next stage. Now we've got to get on with the other one, which I'll just show you the basics of the recipe. You've seen all this bit. I'll just show you what we're putting together, and then we'll come back to this next week. And here are the ingredients for the elderflower and strawberry champagne. We have the flowers from 8 blooms of elderflowers, 1 kilogram of sugar, 500 grams of strawberries, 200 grams of raisins, 2 lemons and 5 grams of wine yeast. Now the raisins and the strawberries will be cut up into smaller bits, mainly to open them up so the juice can get out and the flavour can get out. But once we've got those prepared, we prepare the sugar water in the same way as we did for the elderflower champagne. And once that's cooled, we just add the ingredients, put it under an airlock again, and let that sit for a week before we look at that. I will put the recipes for both of these in the description, so if you want to have a go, please do. So there's the ingredients all in the bucket. They've all been mixed together. The yeast has been added. It just leaves me to put the lid on, put the airlock on, and store it in the cellar for a week. So that's both the elderflower champagne and the elderflower and strawberry champagne in the brewing buckets under airlock, fermenting. They've been fermenting now for about a day. The carbon dioxide is being forced out through the little bubbler things on top, so they are fermenting. They now need to stay like this for 7 days, so we're going to pick this up next week when we do the next step in producing our summer drinks.
I also made some elderflower cordial, but I'm not quite happy with the recipe yet. I think I used a bit too much citric acid. So I'll try that again, and if it works out better, I'll put the recipe up.
Yep, there's plenty more elderflowers out there, so
yeah,
we're not exactly struggling for them.
No. Though Max does like it.
He does.
It's lovely. I think it's a bit too lemony.
Yes, it's got a bit of a lemon zest feel to it. So yes. Well, that's probably about it for us this week. It's been quite a long video, but we've done quite a lot.
Yes, which makes a change.
It does, yeah. We are ramping up, and we've got outside work to do. We've got to start the summer kitchen. We've got to get outside work done before it gets too hot.
Yes, and that is coming. It's warming up next week. We're in the low 20s most of next week.
Looking forward to it.
More sunshine, so that'll be lovely.
Yeah. So until next week, it's time for us to say,
stay safe.
be well.
Doskoro.
Doskoro.